family roughly $2,000 a year, 20% of their grocery shopping. Got it. So we're developing an app. It's a free web and mobile app. The goal is to be a one-stop destination where the family can find all products that every store offers. So we're bridging both online and in-store. We're helping them manage their shopping list, but more importantly, it's providing the prices so they can compare prices between different retailers and plan, or more accurately, optimize their shopping trip to save the most money. So what's behind this is a real big data problem. So historically, Walmart's had some of the biggest databases in the world. And as we expand, it'll be 10% of our data. So it's a huge problem in terms of scalability and data. Right now, we're at the point where we have 20,000 stores, 2,000 products, and we're bringing in roughly 10 billion prices a year. And the real heart of that, getting prices isn't so hard, but the real heart is how do you make sure that you can align and compare products? And that's where we go to a lot of the work of our algorithms and our category managers. And we're now at the point where we're comparing over 100 billion prices. So that's it. Any questions?
Talking from a consumer perspective, how high does the price have to be so a price comparison is attractive to the consumer?
It depends on the consumer. The challenging thing that we have that's different from other industries is if you look at electronics, one product you can save $100. So like a big TV or computer, and that's pretty easy value proposition. In a grocery store, the average price is $3. So on one product, you're saving a dime. That's not a big deal, right? So you really got to look at the whole basket.
How do you get to the in-store prices?
Yes, they're good. Very good question.
And to go back to one of your points, what are you going to do once people start having digital pricing so they can update it in the store without having to change the placards?
So
how do you chase that? I mean, how do you get to those prices?
So for the your first question, in-store pricing, we acquired my parents' company that they've been running for 40 years. So now we have that. And then for the
so do you have like a little Google cart that drives through the aisle and then take pictures of it? And you just
that's where we're going.
And then the second, so okay, that's the way you acquire the data.
Yes, that's right.
So what was it again? Excuse me. You acquired a store, so you just like, how do you get the prices?
So we acquired my parents' company where they have people. They have people in all the major cities that go into the stores and actually get the prices in the store. They have handheld devices. They scan the product, enter the prices. Very manual, yes.
Okay.
We also have online. We have web crawlers that capture the prices. We buy data from other companies, and our secret sauce is integrating all that data and being able to compare it. Yes.
You said prices become dynamic, like on Amazon during the day, or did I get that wrong?
Yes, Amazon is. There's a Wall Street Journal article just a couple months ago that talked about Amazon starting to price dynamically.
Okay, and if that moves to Walmart and also the other stores, does your system or solution give them, let's say if I go shopping at 2 p.m., I'll spend $20 more instead of shopping at 5:30. Is that it?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay. But I still have to manually put in all my grocery shopping list and like manually putting it in. Like I need oatmeal and an egg, and then I can see which store is the best at what time.
The best price, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So there isn't enough dynamic pricing right now for us to do that. We're basically capturing daily the prices, but as soon as it becomes a big enough issue, we just change our subscription to how often we want the data.
And you need big machines.
Oh, we have a lot of horsepower there. Yes.
So how did you eventually get venture capital? Was it because of the deal with Buy.com?
Exactly. Yeah, once we had the Buy.com, then we were a .com play. And our and it was funny because all of our venture capitalists, they were saying, why do you have these brick and mortar stuff? Just drop that and they want us to be a pure play. And fortunately, we stood up to them. We kept one foot in the brick and mortar. And when the .com failed, that's what saved us. Yeah.
So, since you asked my first question already, let's have a seat and chat a little bit more, right? So, I do have a few questions, but we can just continue. I mean, if you have more, please go ahead.
How do you deal with all the different investors when you're trying to get money and they all give you contradictory information about what to do and what not to do? One group tells you, one meeting with the VC that says they're in your market, they listen to your spiel, they ask you certain questions, and they tell you, no, you're doing it wrong, you need to do it this way. Then you meet another group the next day, and they tell you the opposite of what that group just told you, and you're constantly getting these contradictions as to how you need to emerge into this market, and they all think they know everything. So how do you decipher which investor is a good partner and which one is actually giving you valid information when they're contradicting each other?
Great question. And that's
very... through, I can't tell you how many, so it's very frustrating.
It is very frustrating. And each one throws you some weird curveball, and each of those curveballs takes so long just to evaluate. You need to trust your gut, and you need to stand up to them and tell them it doesn't make sense. And the good partner is one that trusts you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm starting, and I'm not going to ask you how you found your co-founder, I guess.
Yeah, it was very convenient.
No, but what I think is interesting is, and we spoke about that outside a little bit, and that's directly related to our program as well. That's why I want to pick it up here, is you mentioned you had a mentor, right? And as I was mentioning right in the beginning, the mentors are really the core of our program, and that's what makes our program and our companies fail or succeed. Not necessarily every time, but sometimes. So I'd love to get your thoughts on and an experience on the mentoring.
Yeah, it's a great, I love that you guys have those mentors. And I didn't have a mentor when I started Khimetrics. In hindsight, I wish I had. It would have helped a lot. But I do now. And I reached out, actually when I moved to Davis, the founder of Silicon Valley Bank, he's my neighbor there. And he was a professor at Stanford, brilliant guy. So I asked him if he would mind mentoring me, and it's been amazing how helpful that is, to have a person that's a seasoned business person that's been through it many times before. They've learned so much, and it's really a shortcut to get through a lot of the challenges that you run into.
Maybe Michael or Eric, do you have anything to say or to ask related to mentoring? Sorry to put you on the spotlight here right away.
Maybe I would ask, what's the, if you can think of maybe what the best piece of advice you got from a mentor or the worst, whether you took the advice or not, I guess, and learned either way.
I don't know if I can remember any of that. I always take the advice that makes sense to me and disregard anything that doesn't make sense. You know, where I find it most helpful is those problems that you run into that you just don't know how to approach. And it's nice to have somebody that you can talk to about that.
So it wasn't important for you that he had any pricing experience, right?
No, no, not at all. It's usually more business things or you know, and there's challenges with people in the organization. Somebody that's not involved in that you can talk through them.
So you mentioned the challenge to sell a product to the Fortune 500 companies when you didn't have any of the three things you mentioned. Can you share a little bit more about that? Because I'm asking that because we do have a lot of B2B companies in our program, and we realized that selling to a larger corporation is always a challenge. And it may, and that's also related to experience, being acquired by a German corporate and having lived in Germany, in Waldorf in this case. How do you compare working with corporates, maybe even related to Germany and the US? Are there any differences? And what are your recommendations? How do you get a foot in the door? How do you successfully close a deal? And how do you get on the radar screen of those guys?
Yeah, great question. I think the biggest thing is it depends a lot on what you're selling and what you're trying to do. What I've learned is that what I've always been focusing on is disruptive technologies. And it's a real challenge when you come in at the director level or even the VP level sometimes, trying to sell something that's going to change the organization because it's changing the whole boundaries. And they're not people that can make decisions on that. So you're usually going to hear no. But it's a total different answer when you come at the board level or the CEO level. That's oftentimes you'll be hearing no all the way from the bottom up. But as soon as you get up to the board or CEO level, it's like they really embrace it and they've been looking for it. And you'd never know that lower in the organization. But that's with the disruptive technology. Now, if you're doing something that's more of a commodity play, then it's fine lower in the organization. So I think a lot of it's who you get to. Then the other piece that I've learned is just anything to get started. So they don't want to buy the product. Well, let's start with a project, a pilot, anything to get your foot in the door and get something going. And you know, even though you're not getting paid for it, at least you're getting some feedback on your product. You can improve it. Developing a relationship, and then that usually will translate later into profit or maybe you're more experienced for the next customer you go to.
You share any insights how you get to the C level or the board level?
That's more challenging. That's networking, and it's really just being aggressive and just developing the networks and looking for people. Maybe they'll know them on this side. I have a funny story. We wanted to get into Rayleigh's at one point, and we wanted to get to the CIO. And this is when we had no connections and didn't know anybody. My brother is an amazing guerrilla marketer. The CIO, when we finally got to the meeting, he says, you know, the guy and the director of pricing talked to him. His former boss talked to him about us. Who else? There were about 3 people talking to me. He's like, I'm just waiting for my mom to call me. Because I have to meet with you guys because of that.